Lebanese Tyre is one of the oldest continuously inhabited and extant cities of the ancient world. According to Herodotus, Tyre was founded in 2750 before Christ and approximately by the beginning of the first millennium before Christ turned into the powerful Phoenician city-state, controlled most of the maritime trade in the region. Phoenicians founded colonies throughout the Mediterranean, including such major civilization centers of the ancient world as Cartagena, Cadiz, and Utica. Over the centuries, the Tyre has seen a succession of the conquerors: Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, Arabs, Crusaders, Mamluks, and Turks. Thriving for 1,000 of years under Phoenicians and then Romans who colonized the city. The early Middle Ages Tyre experienced a long period of decline, mainly because of internal political degradation of Eastern Roman Empire, war, and numerous of devastating earthquakes, which led to a significant decrease of the city population. In the following centuries, Tyre entered a period of prosperity under the Muslim rule and then the Crusaders, who were finally drove out from the city by Mamluks in 1291 AD. Al-Mina is the name of a group of ruins occupying a vast area on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea. Some of them are in the semi-submerged state and are probably dated to the 3rd century before Christ. From the entrance of Al-Mina archaeological site, the road leads through the well-preserved colonnades, foundations and geometric mosaic from Roman and Byzantine periods to the ancient fluted harbor. At low tide, from the shore are clearly visible rectangular blocks of the pier and fragments of columns lying on the surface of the sea. As the researchers found, there was a public Roman bath built in the 2nd and 3rd century AD, as well as a rectangular arena of the 4th century, capable to accommodate up to 2,000 spectators. This arena could fill by water. It's still not entirely clear what kind of competition took place there. In the immediate vicinity of Al-Mina is archaeological site of Al-Bas, which is a necropolis built during the Roman Empire and in fact the main entrance to Tyre. Numerous stone sarcophagi and columbariums are located on the both sides of the main street crossing the whole city. Above it rise the triumphal arch and the colonnade of the 2nd century AD. During archaeological excavations in 1997, near the Roman necropolis a Phoenician cemetery was discovered, belonging to an even more ancient period. In the immediate vicinity of the triumphal arch and the colonnades is the Roman hippodrome. The Roman Empire had many racing hippodromes, circuses. A large hippodrome, Circus Maxentius, was not far from Rome. Alexandria and Antioch also had large hippodromes. Herod the Great built 4 hippodromes in Judea. In the 4th century, Constantine the Great built a circus in his new capital, Constantinople. In Rome, chariot races were held mainly at the giant hippodrome Circus Maximus, which had seating for 150,000 spectators and was located in the valley between the Palatine and Aventine hills. Built in the 2nd century AD, the hippodrome at Tyre was one of the largest such structures in the entire Roman Empire. It allowed chariot races to be held for more than 20,000 spectators. In the western and eastern parts of the arena of the hippodrome, boxes were equipped for fans and the teams, called blue and green. These were luxurious buildings decorated with mosaics and equipped with baths. At the beginning of the 3rd century AD, the greens devoted themselves to Mother Earth or spring, and the blues to the sea and sky or autumn. There were also teams of reds, whites, purples and golds, but by the end of the 3rd century only the teams of blues and greens remained strong. Not far from the hippodrome, the remains of an aqueduct dating back to the same era have been discovered. First-time visitors to Tripoli, Lebanon's second largest city, should start their exploration of the old town at the citadel, also known as the castle of Raymond de Saint-Gilles. It offers an impressive views over the entire city, the historical old town that has survived wars and occupation right below, and the new city farther in the back, close to the Mediterranean, on the route to Tripoli's ancient harbor Al-Mina. On the other side are the neighborhoods of Abu Samra and Kaubi, rising high up above the Abu Ali River below. The history of the citadel of Raymond de Saint-Gilles is inextricably connected with the Crusades. Private armies formed by the feudal elite of the Frankish nobility, mainly natives of Normandy, Provence, Lorraine, Flanders and Gascony, went to the Holy Land by the different ways. Part by the landway through the Asia Minor, others preferred to travel by sea and landed in Palestine, in close proximity from Jerusalem, while others considered the coast of Levant more suitable, since in this case they could count on the supply of their bases in Cyprus. In Tripoli region were located an important fortress, ancient city of Arca. First Crusaders appeared in 1099. City of Arca was attacked on February 14, 1099 by troops under the command of the Count Reynold IV of Toulouse, but they failed to take the fortress by storm. After that followed a 3-month siege, which was also unsuccessful. At the time, the territory between the occupied by the Fatimid dynasty and the lands occupied by the Crusaders, administrated by two powerful Arab families that were in vassal relations with the Fatimid Caliphate. Tripoli was the fiefdom of Bahu Ammar, and the lands up to Oron's River, also called El Asi, were controlled by Usama bin Munqus, the ruler of Shaizar. Osama ben Munkis, impressed by the capture of Antioch by Crusaders and the destruction of Ma'arat al-Numan, sent an embassy to Raymond I and offered provisions to supply his troops and the horse fodder. As well, he provided a guide to Jerusalem. After the unsuccessful siege of Arca in May 13, the Crusaders advanced on Jerusalem, leaving Tripoli untouched. After a short siege on June 15, 1099, Jerusalem was taken. Count Raymond IV of Toulouse was one of the leading organizers and leaders of the First Crusade. Together with Godfrey of Bouillon, Bohemond I and Baudouin I, in 1097 he invaded the lands of Asia Minor, Syria and Palestine. By 1102, despite his active participation in the military campaign, Raymond I still hasn't his own fiefdom, while other leaders of the campaign already control important areas. Bohemond was the ruler of Principality of Antioch, Godfrey was the king of Jerusalem, and Baudouin was the leader of the county of Edessa. Thus, Raymond I focused his attention on Tripoli, whose riches had not been yet plundered by the Crusader troops. In November 1102, he set up camp on the underskirt of the city and declared himself Count of these lands. The construction of a new fortress on the hill, called Mons Peregrinus, means Pilgrim Mountain, a few kilometers away from besieged Tripoli, began in 1102-1103 during the life of the Raymond IV. The city was taken only in 1109 after the Raymond's death by his nephew Guillaume Gordon Count Sardany with the support of the King Baudouin I of Jerusalem. For almost the entire 12th century the Counts of Toulouse owned Tripoli. Later, control of the city passed to the Aquitanian dynasty, and in 1289 the county was captured by the Mamluk Sultanate. Under the Mamluk rules, the fortress of de Saint-Gilles was repeatedly fortified and rebuilt. In the following centuries, Tripoli came under the control of Ottoman Empire. During this period, the courtyard and the fortress was supplemented with the octagonal mausoleum. At the present time, Citadel de Saint-Gilles turns to a Lebanese army post. Also, there is a small museum in the interior. In 2011, during the archaeological research in the multi-level dungeon of the fortress, Frankish burials were discovered. Presumably it was a Crusaders' cemetery. Baalbek is mainly known as the largest and best preserved temple complex of the late period of Roman rule, erected on the lands inhabited by Semitic and Hittite tribes. With the advent of Romans, the ancient Phoenician pagan cults of Baal Shamim, Astarte and Melkart practiced in these places and having Sumerian Akkadian roots, were extrapolated to the Roman triad of Jupiter, Venus and Mercury, and instead of pre-existing sanctuaries, temples dedicated to new deities were erected. The exact date of the start of work of the construction of the temple complex known as Heliopolis is unknown. Presumably, construction began in the 16th year AD and ended 44 years later. Temple of Jupiter, the largest and richly decorated religious building dedicated to the supreme deity of the Roman pantheon throughout the empire. The height of the columns of the temple reached 9.9 meters, their diameter is more than 2.5 meters. The foundation consists of the massive stone monoliths weighing tens of tons. The walls of the temple, which have survived to our times, are also composed of them. The weight of some blocks exceeds 300 tons. Apparently, such blocks are fragments of Phoenician temples that existed in these places for many centuries before Romans. As archaeologists found, Roman buildings stand on the foundation of the much more ancient origin. The choice of the blocks of such impressive size and weight for the construction of foundation of this temple, predetermined by the increased seismic activity in Bekaa Valley. It is still not entirely clear how the blocks were moved from the quarry and placed in the base of the walls. At the beginning of the 2nd century AD, under the Emperor Trajan, a front portico was attached to the facade of the temple, pink marble of the columns of which were delivered from Egyptian Aswan. Established maritime trade routes between Egypt and Semitic tribes inhabiting the territories of Lebanon and northwestern Syria have existed since the 3rd millennium BC, and Phoenicians dominated in Mediterranean trade 9 centuries before the Roman conquest. The Temple of Bacchus, or Dionysus, how Greek called this deity, is one of the best preserved buildings in Baalbek. A very large structure, even larger than Greek pantheon, but much less known. Of the 42 Doric columns surrounding the walls of the temple, 19 are still upright. On them rests a richly carved entablature. The interior of the temple is decorated with Corinthian half columns, framed with the 2 levels of niches on each side. The lower surface of the architrave is decorated with images of the Roman emperors and heroes, and the reliefs on the sides of the central sanctuary illustrate mythological scenes about the birth and life of Bacchus. Famous festivities in honor of the god of wine, Bekaa, at the confluence of the crowds took place there. Behind the main entrance to the temple complex was the hexagonal, a hall containing 560 statues. Only 4 of them have survived to this day. 12 columns and the entablature resting on them are all what was survived from the temple complex later called Bustan and Han's Garden. The building dates back to the 2nd century AD, presumably there were the southern entrance leading to the main sanctuary. The 2 main buildings were an extended colonnade and bath, architectural forms of which reminiscent Trojan baths in Rome. Despite the considerable interest to the ruins of Heliopolis expressed by European archaeologists and explorers since the last quarter of the 18th century, the main part of the settlement formed around the temples remained unexplored and located in the ancient cultural layers lying under the modern Arab city of Baalbek.